Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Kindness Rising. Jess is our first friend in this morning as we wake up with more high fives for humanity and less rage bait. This week's been without a net, and we've been looking at fearless connection through the life of my grandmother, the inimitable Danda. On Monday, she taught us to notice and reach first. Yesterday, she taught us to stay curious because people are almost always more interesting than the stories we invent about them. And today we're adding another part in Danda's way, remember. Because attention says, I see you right now. But memory says, you still mattered after you left. So let's get started. Good morning, everyone. You hear a little bit of phlegm, a little bit of a frog in my throat. That's because I arrived back at my domicile at 2 a.m. Yes, just a short 5.5 hours ago after an extremely long day, but an amazing experience with my child. We drove 2+ hours to check out a band called Camp, CAAMP, 2 A's in the word camp in this case. And they did not disappoint. The experience was tremendous. The venue is always amazing. It's Canandaigua, New York. But what was really cool, what really happened, we knew there were going to be storms, but a gigantic, maybe the most rain. My buddy, who I didn't even know was going until on the ride up, and I met up there, and we were both commenting that this may be the single most rain we've ever seen. It was coming down like someone literally poured buckets. They had to call all the people in out of the lawn, send them back to their cars. It was insane. Lightning, thunder. We didn't know whether the show was going to go on. 2 opening acts. And finally, around 9:30 last night, they removed the tarps from the instruments, and the crowd that had remained, because most people had left, they weren't allowing people from the lawn down into the pavilion. And if you go to shows, you know what we're talking about. We were lucky to have pavilion seats, and these guys just blew it out of the water. And there were garbage bags. Garbage bags galore, people making money selling ponchos. Yep, for sure, Jess. But what was really cool is that if you've never heard Camp before, CAAMP Camp, they're pretty awesome. They're rock and folk indie. I don't even know how to describe their music, but I absolutely love their vibe. Fun summer, perfect summer band. Anyway, they came out and rock CCR. Have you ever seen the rain? That's what they opened to us, a cappella. They just came out singing it. It was really, really cool. And then they had 2 opening bands. A young woman who I'd never heard of before. She was okay. She had a little bit of a Norah Jones vibe, but a Taylor Swift look to her. And then another band called Monrovia, which I'm definitely going to look into more. But at the end of the show, they did a special double encore, including bringing the guests out, and they did I think it's Dreams by Fleetwood Mac. Thunder only happens when it's raining. Anyway, super show, but we didn't leave the venue until after 11:30. About 11:30, and it was almost 2 a.m. by the time we got home. So needless to say, I'm a little scratchy. We screamed, we laughed, we had all the good times that you're supposed to have in the show, and we had really good seats to start. Last bit about this, I don't know why I'm rambling on about it, but it was just so exciting. We had pretty good seats to the show. We were actually in Q, which is the 17th row of the show, but because so many people left, we were down there like in 6th or 7th row, and people are just kind of moving down. Everybody was orderly who remained, and it worked out great. It was a gorgeous night at the end, driving home at midnight or whatever. But yeah. But guess what? I'll sleep when I'm dead. And I got to see camp live, and they were awesome. Jerry Ginger, Roseanne, Jess, yes, the crew is in the house. Let's get started 5 minutes into the show. That was the longest cold open in the history of television programs or streaming programs. I don't know. I don't know what's going to come out of my mouth today. I'm a little weary, but in a good way, just in an amazing way. All right. So let's get back to Danda. We've been talking about Danda all week through our Fearless Connection. I didn't intend for this to be this week. Danda was not intended to be the theme, but then the story started and whatever. So I don't know if I mentioned this previously, but I think I have, that Danda lived to be 104 years old. She would hate that I was even talking about her age now. And she lived alone with a lot of support at the end, particularly from my aunts and my mother. But she lived alone and lived in her home, which was pretty cool. Anyway, so this 104-year-old woman got a chance to sit down to dinner with the First Lady of Ohio and her daughter. Okay, grandmother, coal mines of Pennsylvania, Ohio, First Lady. What? Oh, it must have been a campaign rally or a fundraiser. No. There were no television cameras. No, they just had never met in person. I'm going to tell you how they met at all. And the daughter wanted to meet Danda because she had known her kindness her entire life. Absolutely. Danda kept remembering moments that mattered in this family's life. And eventually the people on the other end of letters that she sent wanted to meet the woman who'd been remembering them all along. Yep. Jess, yes, aging in place. Big discussion, big important discussion, aging in place. Aging in place is a wonderful option if it works for your family. I think it's aging with dignity and some grace and kindness and compassion and all those things is what matters. If the aging in your home is not possible, at least we have each other to love and to help each other through wherever it may be. So I appreciate what you're saying, Jess. Yes, being able to age in place in the home that my mother and her sisters grew up in, and the only home I ever knew for Danda. I have a ton of memories. All right. I'm not here to yak on about memories only, because I have some and I will share them. I'm also here to talk about the difference between having your act together and not. No, seriously. Let's get some music on. I need more music. What's the answer when you're like, okay, I don't know what to do? I'm tired, confused, sad, I'm happy. The answer is music. And Grateful Dead said, if you get confused, listen to the music play. And it's absolutely true. All right. There is a difference between being recognized and being remembered, right? Recognition is, hey, I know that face. I remember your name. It's John something, right? I know where you were. Memory goes deeper than that. It says, I remember your daughter had an interview. I remember your father was having surgery. I remember you were nervous about that presentation. Those details may seem small, but when someone remembers them, something powerful happens. We start to feel known. We realize the conversation mattered enough that the other person carried part of it with them. And it's kind of rare. We live in a world where we're constantly talking to people who are only half listening. They're either waiting their turn or checking their phone, preparing their response, trying to remember if they've already told us the story or not, whatever the case may be. Somebody, So when somebody kind of comes back later, when somebody comes back weeks later and says, how did that thing turn out? How was the show? It lands differently because they didn't just hear us, they actually remembered us. Attention says, you have my time, but your memory says, you have a place in my mind. And that's how connection deepens. That's what we're doing this morning on Kindness Rising with Jerry Ginger and Roseanne and Jess. Yes, absolutely. Welcome in to the whole crew. Whoever else is out there, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Come say hello to us. Every weekday morning, 7:30 a.m. We are the Kindness crew that gets up and gets after it on the Mornings in the Lab Network. It is a Wednesday, which means Keith, John, and Friends will have their gig, of course, 8 to 10, but at 8:30 a.m., It Starts With Joy, Cheryl Raphael Whitaker, this morning on the Mornings in the Lab Network. Let's get to our clue, because I'm already running behind. You think I forgot the clues? This might not be the hardest one. I got to be honest with you. The clues today, the who's who, was not where I go. Moved to Nashville the day after graduating from high school. This person moved to Nashville the day after graduating from high school. That's our first clue in the Who in the World Challenge, where I give you 3 clues throughout the episode to guess the person that we are talking about today, someone who maybe is aligned with our theme or has a special birthday or something of that nature. And we'll get to more clues in just a minute for everyone out there. I love to see the chat. I can't read it all, but I love to see that you guys are chattering. Get it going. That's what it's all about. I'll catch up. I saw Kermit the Frog. Oh, I can't. You think I can do Kermit the Frog right now? I can barely do a Matthew Roof. All right. We're going to get to the kind of spotlight. That's what we're going to do next. Let's rock into our spotlight. That is when we always talk about an organization that's doing good work for good people out there in the world. This one builds on what we've talked about before. I failed to get their website, but I'll drop it, I promise, because it's a really cool one. And Jess, I think you expressed interest in the last one. You may be interested in this, which is a similar idea. The idea of letters across generations. That's a program from an organization called the Ladybug Projects. The program pairs teenagers with older adults for a guided exchange of handwritten letters. No text, not social media comments, actual handwritten letters. Participants are matched through senior communities and partner organizations and given prompts that help them share their stories, reflect, and learn about one another over time. And that matters because many older adults, many older adults experience isolation, while many young people feel unheard. That's not obvious. A handwritten letter creates room for both generations. It slows the conversation down, and it gives someone time to think and time to listen. As the letters continue over a series of exchanges, it's not just a one-time act of encouragement. This starts a relationship. Two people who might never otherwise meet begin carrying pieces of each other's stories. Sometimes friendship starts with a handshake, sometimes it starts across a kitchen table, and sometimes it begins long before two people ever enter the same room. With a pen, a piece of paper, someone willing to write first. And that's the Ladybug Project, and that's Uncommon Kindness. I'm so clever. All right. I got to have a sip of water. I am dry. Whew. Good. I switched to water, Mom. You'll be glad to know that. I had my coffee before my water. I bring the water here because it did make my mouth dry. You kind of knew that. Absolutely. All right. Wait. Did you guys hear that echo? My guitar strings behind me actually were vibrating from my weight. That happened today. That's what we're doing right now. Wait, that happened today. July the 22nd, July 22nd, 1987. My guess is we were all there. Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev made an important shift in the nuclear arms negotiations with the United States. The U.S. and Soviet Union, of course, had spent decades locked in suspicion. Each side had weapons aimed at each other. Each side assumed the worst, and every negotiation carried enormous political pressure. And for months, the Soviet Union had attached conditions to any agreement involving intermediate-range nuclear missiles. Then Gorbachev changed course. He indicated that the Soviet Union was willing to negotiate the removal of those weapons without insisting on the same conditions. And that shift helped open the door to what became known as the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, the IRNF Treaty, later that year. Of course, it didn't end the Cold War. It didn't erase every disagreement, and it certainly didn't create instant trust. But it demonstrated something important. Progress sometimes begins when somebody cares more about moving forward than defending their previous position. There are moments when conviction means holding your ground, and there are moments when courage means taking one step toward the other side. That's true between nations, and it's true between people. We don't have to agree on everything to create enough trust for one meaningful next step. And yes, that happened today. All right. I disappeared. Object permanency. Was I still here? I don't know. Where did I go? That wasn't what I meant to do. Okay. I'm trying to get the music off. I'm talking out loud to myself. Let's go, not to myself, to you all too. Back to our who in the world. Who in the world could I possibly be talking about here that moved to Nashville the day after graduating from high school? They also created a program inspired by their father that mails free books to young children. This person's father wasn't well known, couldn't read or write. And so they created a charity and mail free books to young children. That is clue number deuce. Hey, Sully, peekaboo. We can do peekaboo again. You want to play? Yeah, Sully, good to see you, buddy. Yeah, glad you're here. Late is okay. I've always said it. You don't never. People say I'm sorry. I appreciate that. Means you care. When I hear people say sorry, I'm late. Holy crap, they care enough to be sorry that they're late. That means we're doing something right together. I don't know if you're on the horizontal, but I just noticed how crooked this is going to end poorly if I start fussing with my pictures. All right, we're off the rails again. Sully, thanks, man. I just appreciate that you come out with Jess and Jerry and Roseanne and the rest of the crew here at Kindness Rising, the Kindness Crew. And we're going to keep it rolling because time is flying. We got to get to the story. Everybody's waiting. The Danda story. What's the Danda story? What is this? The first lady of Ohio and Danda, and what is he even talking about? Well, here it is. It's no secret. This is not what this is about, but it's definitely no secret, at least in our family in this part of the world, that my grandmother was a staunch, old school, conservative, hardline Republican. There was never much mystery about that. But there's a guy that she followed throughout his entire career. You may know him. You may know his name, John Kasich. Does the name sound familiar to anyone? The former governor of Ohio, also a presidential candidate in 2010. Here's a photograph of him, maybe a picture tells 1,000 words. You might remember the face from the debates and the other things. But this man served as a United States representative from Ohio for years in the 80s, and then became the governor of Ohio as well before becoming a presidential candidate, and now does what I do. He actually is a talk show host. He has his own show, but that's beside the point. It's part of the point, but it's beside the point. Here's the thing. When my grandmother met John Kasich, met him, i.e. on the television, she was just watching a Sunday morning show. Probably Meet the Press or one of those, whatever. But he wasn't talking about campaign strategy or political speech or giving a political speech. That's not what my grandmother remembered. What my grandmother remembered was that he talked about the recent passing of his mother at the time. And Danda heard the grief in his voice. So she just sent him a sympathy card, found his address and sent him a sympathy card. That was the beginning, 1987. 10 years later, 1997, she sees John again somewhere, or learns that he is now engaged to be married. He was single the first time she sent the letter. 1997, guess what? She sent a congratulations card. Then, 3 years later, John Kasich and his wife, Karen, welcomed twin daughters. And Danda sent a gift for the babies. One of those babies' names was Reese, and Reese comes back in the story. That gift, though, it helped seal the relationship that would continue for the next 18 years. My mother and Karen Kasich and John and her kids exchanged letters and photographs and phone calls and birthday. I mean, all of them, same thing. I mean, the lineup started. It was Dexter, it was John, Karen Kasich. You know, it's just one after another, these relationships that my grandmother developed with these people who were calling, letters, gifts, all that stuff. Yep. Because Danda didn't only follow John Kasich's political career, she followed his family. She remembered Karen. She remembered Reese and her sister. She marked the milestones, birthdays, celebrations, changes in their lives. She kept showing up through the mail and on the phone, not once, not because there was an election happening, but for 18 years. 18 years. Then Reese graduated. The twins graduated, and Danda sent her a graduation card. And Reese, who'd been receiving cards and gifts from my grandmother, was a woman from Pennsylvania her entire life. She's the one who said, I want to meet Sue Birdie, i.e. Danda, a.k.a. Danda. They'd never met in person. Nope. But Danda had been a part of Reese's story since she was a newborn. They never sat in the same room. But that summer, Reese asked for it, and Karen and Reese traveled from Ohio to Pennsylvania to meet my grandmother. John was not there. He was elsewhere, but it wasn't his idea. It was Reese's idea. She wanted to meet the woman who'd remembered her. Danda was 140 years old, 104 years old. And suddenly she was showing the first lady of Ohio and her daughter around her town. They went out to eat at a classic restaurant with a group of other people, and Danda was celebrated like the local celebrity she was. And she probably acted as though hosting a governor's family at 104 was completely normal. Here it is, Tuesday afternoon. Here's Karen. You know, whatever. And my mother reminded me that less than 6 months later, my grandmother passed away. And that changed the meaning of the visit for me as I thought about it. It wasn't just a nice ending to an unusual correspondence. It was the completion of a relationship that began with a sympathy card and unfolded over 18 years. Danda noticed. She noticed a grieving son and a fiance and a wife and baby, graduations. And she made that family feel important because she remembered them. And she remembered because she knew that attention says, I see what's happening in your life today, but memory says, I'll still care about it years from now. And Danda didn't just carry a detail from one conversation to the next. She carried that family's story across a generation. Notice, reach, stay curious, remember, and keep showing up. That is the lesson for today. Yep. All right. The Danda story, John Kasich. Hey, Claire McFadden, welcome in. Come on in and say hello to this crew right here. Welcome, Claire McFadden. You're the star of the show today. No, I appreciate you coming in from New Zealand. I'm here in upstate New York on the East Coast of the United States. And we are here every weekday morning at this time, whatever time it is, between 7:30 and 8 a.m. for a half an hour of hope, humanity, and heart. Weekday mornings, just getting up at more high fives for humanity, a little less rage bait. And we talk about anything, as long as it's kind. Subscribe to the channel, come join us, get involved in the community. That's what we're building here. This is not about me getting likes and subs, although they help. They help. This is about Claire McFadden meeting Mike Sullivan and Jess and Jerry Ginger and Roseanne Roof. That's what this is about. Yes. And that's another huge part, Sully. I appreciate what you're saying, right? So, yep, since about 2020, you probably first heard of him because he was a Republican. And we're not getting into politics, but what was an interesting story is he saw what was going on in his mind in the Republican Party and didn't like it. And he actually came and spoke at the Democratic National Convention about the things he was seeing leading into the 2020 election. And I I don't know what that meant exactly, how much impact it had, but 12 a.m. So I hope to see you again. All right. Well, stay up late. Come on and join us here every day at this time. Here's stories about my grandmother. Guess the Who in the World contest, which I'm going to get to. Not contest. It's not really a contest. Challenge. We'll call it a challenge. All right. Third clue. Anybody sniffing around this one? I bet they are. Moved to Nashville the day after graduating from high school. She also created a program inspired by her father that mails free books to young children. And the last clincher clue. She wrote the theme song and starred in a movie about 3 women taking revenge on a terrible boss. Working 9 to 5. All right. Yeah, I just went complete falsetto there, didn't I? All right. That's fun. Let's get to the kindness compass. Just what we do here on Kindness Rising every day is move from thought to action. We have great stories here, great talk, great time, fun conversation, but we want to get moving into action. Yep. And so what I want today, I want you to do this better. Think of one person you'll encounter today, and remember one thing they told you previously. You know who you might see somewhere down the road. Think about it. Was it the guy at the grocery store? Was it your mother? Was it your friend? Whoever. Something they told you before. And then ask them about it. How's everything? How'd your daughter's recital go? Did you hear back about that job? Were you able to have that conversation? Whatever. Don't ask because it's a technique. Ask because you're trying to appear thoughtful. You are thoughtful. That's why, not because you're trying to appear. Because they mattered enough to remember. And when someone tells you something important today, carry it with you. Write it down if you need to. Set a reminder, a follow-up. There's nothing artificial about needing help remembering. The kindness is in deciding that the detail is worth keeping. Notice, reach. Stay curious, and remember. That is today's kindness compass. All right. Yep, we're winding down. Did anybody guess? I didn't see a guess. I didn't see a guess. No guesses. All right, nobody's got a guess. Let's go. Here it is. I already gave you the clues. I'll remind you of the clues again, and then we'll show our person, and then we'll wind it down. Moved to Nashville the day after graduating high school. Created a program inspired by her father that mails free books to young children. And she wrote the theme song, Working 9 to 5. There she is, a young Dolly. That's the young, sweet Dolly. Yep, Dolly Parton grew up in a large family, I think 12 kids, something like that, with very little money. It was like a one-room cabin house. But she built her career defined not only by music and success, but by her extraordinary ability to make people feel seen. She developed the Imagination Library, hundreds of millions. Now it's saying, okay, apparently we're up to hundreds of millions of books that she put into hands of children. Yep, she remembered where she came from. She remembered what her family had needed, and she turned that memory into something that now serves children around the world. That's a pretty powerful form of kindness. Remembering the person, remembering the story, remembering what mattered, and then doing something with it. That is it. That is it. Well, love Dolly. You didn't know any of those things about Dolly? There's your Dolly stuff. She is a good role model, Sully. Absolutely. Yep. All right. Well, here it is. We're winding down. We're going to pull the thread. Well, we're going to get Dolly off the stage. Then we'll pull the thread that winds us down and gets back into, actually, I think we weave the thread. I'm not pulling it in this case, but I'll get my analogies right at some point, whatever. Uncle John's band. Here we go. The thread. In Uncle John's band, Robert Hunter asks, are you kind? Maybe kindness isn't only how we treat people while they're standing in front of us, though. Maybe kindness is what we carry after they leave. Their name, their concern, their celebration of their family. Just a small piece of their story. Danda didn't just write letters. She remembered the people who were reading them. And that's why the relationships continued. That's why the letters came back. And that's why presidential candidate's wife and daughter walked right through Danda's front door, because attention says, I see you now, and memory says, you mattered after you left. Tomorrow we'll add another part of Danda's way, because noticing someone can begin a relationship, reaching can open the door, curiosity can deepen the conversation, remembering can make someone feel known, but connection becomes friendship when we keep showing up. And that's what I'll do tomorrow morning, 7:30 a.m. Eastern, right here on Kindness Rising. Now, get on over to Mornings in the Lab with Keith, John, and friends. Don't forget about our friend Cheryl Whitaker with It Starts With Joy. She'll be there at 8:30 and probably joining Keith and John after over on in the Lab. So that is a cool thing that we do. Stick with us every weekday morning, 7:30 a.m. Eastern, for the start of Mornings in the Lab Network with Kindness Rising. I'll see you tomorrow. Until then, stay uncommon and stay kind.